hosting friend Ron serving the man in the myth. Man, I'm super excited. It's hard to even keep my breath today, man. And I just want to thank everybody, the returning listeners, those of you that are new. Hey, we appreciate you joining. Hey, we hope you really do enjoy this week. Ron, you want to say hello to everybody, man?
Hey, what's up, men, women, all those out there that are listening in. Great to be here with you again. And as you can see, we've got something special that Seb's going to introduce here tonight for you.
Yeah, y'all know we periodically bring on other people that just resonate with us, that's doing powerful things out in the world. Man, and lately we've been talking about these masks, and this all came about in the group that this gentleman we're going to have on tonight actually created from our school called the Gentlemen of the Revolution. And man, we have the awesome Mark Andrews here with us, man. So Mark, I don't want to tell the people what you do. We have it. We can get it from the horse's mouth. Welcome to the Man Kave Experience. So just kind of tell everybody, man, what it is you do, what type of coach.
Sure. Thank you, Cedric. Thanks, Ron, for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I know how much fun it is to be a father and how much I really appreciate my daughters, and it's just such an amazing experience. And I know Ron knows as well. So congratulations, and hopefully you'll little by little you'll get more sleep.
Thank you, sir.
But yeah, so basically I'm a health coach. I focus on energy, stress management, just being healthier all around. My background originally is in IT, and as you know, we computer nerds are not always the healthiest. We tend to eat a lot of junk food and not get a lot of exercise.
Mountain Dew.
Yeah, exactly. Mountain Dew, Jolt, you name it. I went through some health challenges myself. Kind of didn't really want to go through the meds. Got myself healthy through diet, exercise, and wanted to help others. Kind of pass it along.
Cool.
Great job, Mark. Great job.
Yeah.
Man, thank you. Hey guys, we're gonna go ahead and dive right into it, man. We have to me, it's a really interesting one. I was wondering when we're going to get around to it, and Mark actually presented this to us, and we're like, dude, you got to come on and let's talk about it. And we want to tackle power.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just throw it out there, y'all. Just power, and we'll kind of lead into it to kind of let you guys see what we're talking about, because we're not necessarily just talking about going in the gym trying to bench press, 1,000 pounds, but a different aspect of the power. And, again, it's just some dudes chilling out in the man cave just finna, like I say, chop it up, talk about it, and, hopefully it's something out there for you guys. So Mark, I'm kind of interested, man. What was going through your head? Like how did this even pop up for you to even, be thinking about power?
So, I mean, one of the main things for my coaching is really trying to empower people to kind of, take control of their life. We kind of have this feeling that we don't have control of our lives. We're kind of at the mercy of, whether it's big pharma or it's, businesses or, the government and so on and so on and so on. We feel like, we don't have any control over life. And I don't think that's true. I think we do have a lot of power in our life if we, apply ourselves and don't play the victim. So for me, yeah, power is about, taking control of your life and making your life the way you want it to be, and don't play the victim. That's true power to me. So it's just something I've been thinking about. I mean, it's obviously in the news, there's a lot of things in the news of, the government and different things in society, and I think we can individually take back our power and make positive change in the world.
Yeah. And I think for me, I think you're talking about power, but also I was thinking about people feeling powerless.
Exactly.
And, they just kind of feel or think that they're victim, or, they're victimized by life and they have nowhere to go. And they blame, everything under the sun to why they can't take back their power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that I think you really have to dig deep in your life and realize, that power is always there for you. We've talked earlier, before on previous podcasts about energy. Energy is never born, it's never lost. It's like if I feel like my power is lesser than, or I don't feel empowered, to take a step forward in my life, then my energy is elsewhere. It's not focused, where I need it to be successful and to actually be, to take that step forward. And I think it's, when you look at, women these days, and, for so many years, feeling suppressed and feeling, like lesser than, and feeling like they can't step out of their, can't step forward in their life, and through just bad decisions, a lot by men, unfortunately, women are able to now tap into that power that they have felt kind of trapped within their body. And I think it's really an amazing kind of transformation that we are as coaches, as well as society is kind of experiencing. I think it's, obviously you look back in time and about, just the different shifts that have gone on in lives, on the big scale. And this is one of them, I mean, for sure. And here we are as men trying to understand, as coaches, but also just in our true nature, how does power look like in our life? Do we still, times think about how we were taught by our fathers, and how, being this macho, charismatic, person that's putting themselves ahead of everybody else, how that power can be so destructive. And it's, in a very kind of great time for us to be talking about this, because I think there's so much opportunity for each one of us to really, kind of look within and where is that energy? Where is it flowing? Where is it not flowing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Man, it's kind of interesting, because I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, you know what? Like I'm kind of torn between that ego part of the power and that masculinity thing there. And I was just realizing, I was like, man, I'm so grateful that I'm at the point I am in my life, but man, I was walking in the dark for the longest, because I was trying to think about a time where I even had a conversation with not just a male, but just anybody in my immediate circle throughout my life, and it was never really talked about, or none that I can really remember, because it was always that personal deal, I guess, going on. I think, when I look back and I can see some of the people that I interacted with, it was just not talked about. And that's kind of interesting, now we're trying to come of age and come to terms with these new people that we're becoming. So I'm really looking forward to see where we're going with this.
So Mark, how have you kind of, since you brought this up as a topic, what tools did you tap into for you to kind of dig deep and find where your power is located, and really kind of utilizing that, to be a strength for you?
I mean, for me, it really starts with, looking at the way I think, the way I talk, and, especially, the first thing you want to look at is complaining. I mean, every time you're complaining, you're really kind of saying, oh, this wasn't me, this happened to me. This, these cheeseburgers went in my mouth and now I don't feel good.
The victim, right? The victim.
Exactly, that whole victim. So anytime you're, obviously step one is awareness. And when you catch yourself complaining, that to me is certainly like, that's the awareness you need to have. If you're complaining, you're basically playing the victim, and you're basically giving all your power away. Anytime you play the victim, you're just giving your power away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Because you're almost giving your power to whatever the issue is versus towards the solution.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and said, I know when you just went through this experience with your son being born, you kind of shared your I don't know if it felt like power at the time. I know it was kind of having to let go of what you can and can't do in an operating room where they're, removing your son from your girlfriend and going through that whole process. And you mentioned about just wanting to just like push them out of the way because they were just, the whole crazy process. So you kind of probably felt a little bit powerless in that situation. And that must have been a tough, kind of scenario for you to walk through. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Man, it's interesting because it's actually ongoing, man. Like to understand the power, you have to understand how powerless we are sometimes, and to be comfortable with it. Because man, like he gets these really bad hiccups now, and it's no different than then. And it's like you just look at it, and it's like, damn, man, it sounds like it hurt, and I really, really do want to do something. I'm just like, man, I'll take it, Lord, give it to me. Like I don't care. I just want him to be okay, and nothing happens. It's humbling. It's humbling, but in that, when you're in that situation and you're being humble, it also gives you power, though. In being and where I think where it kind of comes from is being able. It gives you power to calm your mind, because we worry about so much stuff that we want to be able to take care of, versus looking at it like things are just going to happen the way they're going to happen when they're going to happen, right? And just enjoy it, or be it good or bad. You just be present, I should say. So I find myself like, oh wow, I do have some power somewhere. You just learn how to shift it. And it kind of goes into what Mark was saying. You learn. You're not the front of your mind thinks, oh, I'm powerless, but there's actually some power in some portion of that you can't control, even if it's just only you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Kind of crazy how that comes from having a kid, huh?
But so I was gonna say, I think this is an excellent example that shows that really, by having faith, like being able to put faith into, whether it's the divine or God or spirit or whatever you want to, whatever term you want to use, that when you have that faith, that actually gives you power, even though when you feel powerless, if you just trust that it's going to work out, and you trust that the hiccups will end eventually, or you trust that, whatever situation will work out. If you can actually relax into it and trust the process, that's actually taking back your power, rather than, even though you're not directly doing it. It's kind of like a subtle difference between control, which is where you want to do everything, and power, where you're basically creating, and whether you're doing the creating or the divine is doing the creating, or you're working together to do the creating, that's where the real power is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Mark, when are you at your best as far as feeling that full potential of the power? Is there kind of a situation you're in your life where you feel like you're the peak of that power, the good power that you've kind of been able to tap into? Mm-hmm. Is there a space in your life that you can say, gosh, when I'm here, that's when I feel like I'm there. I'm at that pinnacle.
I would say certainly when I'm meditating regularly and, really getting in touch with my intuition, with those inner urgings, because that's where it's like, it's like you're really a team with your inner spirit, and, you're being led down the right path, and, everything you do seems to be working out. Everything that seems to be, quote, happening to you seems to be working out.
Right.
It's like when you start to get into the brain, the logical mind, the thinking, well, how is this going to work out? How is that going to work out? That's when the wheels sometimes come off.
Yeah, all these thoughts that were lesser than, or not going to be. Because I was thinking about me and looking back in my life, and there was a time, and I think I've shared this with Cedric, that my wife is a very successful, beautiful, amazing woman. And, probably if I look back, 10, 15 years ago, I've got a solid job. I've been there for a long time. All these things that are very steady in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I allowed myself to feel that I didn't really understand how I fit in her world.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking that I'm lesser than because I don't have this 6-figure job, and I'm not kind of the breadwinner of the family, and all these things that were just me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just me feeling like I wasn't good enough, and some of these childhood messages that I kind of have carried forward periods of my life. But like kind of going within, just really experiencing my mind, my eyes being closed, and just having thoughts go through my mind, and realizing those are just thoughts. The only time they really mean anything is when I put value on them. So as I've gone through that spiritual path for me, and whatever that may be for you, the listener, I think follow that, whether it's the light or the universe, or like Mark's saying, there's no one specific, way you should be, kind of looking to, guide you through your life. But just that inward journey through any practice allows you to realize how much of that is just bullshit. It's just you creating a story, or the story that you were told that you're supposed to believe, because that's what the person before them told them the story was. And you just kind of placate and get, stuck in that rut of the same messages that we learned. And so today, as I sit here right now, I'm equal. My wife and I are we're independent. We're whole, as a couple. And it's obviously it's the place I should have always been, but I realized, it was the journey that it took for me to get there, and knowing that I was needing and wanting and desiring that ability to feel whole. And I got my power back. I think it's something I let that energy kind of sit in other areas of my life, and didn't really move, myself in the direction to allow that to, come to manifest in my life. And, that was just beautifully said, Mark, as far as just kind of that whole process. And I know Cedric has, equal kind of thoughts and experiences around just kind of him going within, and maybe share a little bit about your, kind of how you have, kind of transitioned in your life a little bit. I guess the Cliff Notes version, because I know you've come a long way from where you once were, but just how that shift of power has kind of moved in your life.
Man, I have now at this point, it's all more about action. Intentional action is what's creating a lot of power in my life now. Because I wasn't intentional in anything I used to do, and now I'm starting to think about it and make sure it's coming from a good place, but just taking action and moving through different fears and all of that stuff is just creating something like you said. The way I look at it, and I get to create it, and the more I could ride the ripple and ride the wave and continue to take action, no matter, in my relationship, I'm noticing, hey, now I got to go and take action in just listening to what it is she want to do, rub her feet, or whatever the case may be in my finances, taking action and watching how I spend, which is causing other things to happen. So I'm literally seeing power being created and manifested. So that's how it's really moving in my life now. And just kind of waiting to see how it's going to manifest in Mosiah's life, because that's a totally new realm. But I guess that's the Cliff Notes, because I don't want to start. Did that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because I think, power can be experienced so many different ways. I think there's those points in our life where, that strength and power that we feel within that we're able to share in situations, is so motivating to others. I think, when you can just, without any type of reservations, just in a good way, share that positive energy that comes out, and because I think you want to feel empowered. You want to feel that you can tap into that better version of yourself, and not feel that there's something holding you back. And I think there are times where we kind of think, is it going to come across a way that I don't want it to, because I'm feeling so much more different so much better than I used to, and I want to share this. Is that going to come off authentic? Is it going to come off like well, how the heck did he figure it out? He's been, kind of here all these years, and now he's here. What transpired to make that happen? And I think that's the learning point right there, where you can, then it's your story, right? Because I think we all have our individual stories we're tapping more and more into, especially now as we're, delving into our coaching career, and how important that connecting the dots is in our lives, because, oftentimes we, forget, or, purposely or not purposely, little experiences that, kind of led us to where we ended up in our life, and where we lost that power, where we, kind of let it, kind of be not an important thing. We played small. We talked at length, Cedric and I, about just our willingness to times just kind of be, small, and not have to worry about the results, no investments and no return, but at least I'm not going to get, I'm not going to feel that after the experience, type thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real big one too, man. And I'm sure we all probably felt it at some point, especially in our careers, this new career we're all taking on. I'm sure we had to, dig deep and find some power somewhere to do some of the things, and fight through and power through. Man, I'm kind of curious though, like, man, was this something like that was talked about, when y'all were growing up, or at any time, in your life?
Not really.
No, I mean, yeah. I had the father that was, full-time breadwinner. My mom ended up working because of, some bad decisions that he made. It wasn't really, her choice, but it was always, not a subservient type relationship where, he was in control of everything she did. I think, but she did play a role where she didn't feel like her voice was heard. And had some, reservations about expressing who she was, and what it kind of came out of that, a relationship with my mom that was probably never what it could have been, because, I kind of understood more about her because she wasn't, drunk, and she wasn't affected by her decisions. She was just, a woman trying to keep the family together. Kind of experiencing much more of that and connecting with that. So I think that influenced, probably me being a little bit more reserved and not putting myself out there, and not really understanding that I'm a much more powerful man that, that I, thought I could be. So yeah.
Yeah. In my case, this was never really discussed. I mean, my father, like, he had a job that he hated, and then he had a hobby that he would do nights and weekends. So he really actually spent very little time with me or my sister. So he was kind of like an absentee father. He was like physically there at night, and he paid the bills, but there was not like real discussions or like any type of kind of connection as a father. So yeah, there was no talk about like the role of father. I just kind of had to figure it out for myself. Although I do remember, like, just at a very young age, just having this kind of feeling like, it's kind of strange because I grew up in a small town that was like very, very, very racist place, and very sexist too growing up when I did. But I always had this kind of innate feeling that, like, sexism and racism was just wrong. It was just like wrong. And that everyone's equal, and everyone's, deep down the same. So I never really felt like, oh, it's my duty to be the breadwinner. I have been the primary breadwinner in my family, but I never felt like a pressure to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm somewhat different in that sense.
Yeah, I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I know I'm way over there in right field somewhere. Like, nah, man, I had a messed up, jaded, way of learning about power.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, honestly, how I came up, the man with the money had the power.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always around, because you would see certain people in the neighborhood, like, nobody messed with them, and it was like, okay, that's power. Like, you get to say what, you could send somebody, it's a little stupid stuff, but you send people to go and get your groceries. That's power. Nobody's gonna mess with you. Like, I want to have what that dude had. So that was the kind of power, we chased, and the most heartless one, the heartless, fearless man with the biggest gun. Like, okay, you got to be known in the streets, like to be big, bad, and have the money, because the money brought the power and the women, and it was the straight, like I call it the idiot box. It was the idiot box way of learning, but no, it is kind of funny. I was just like, yeah, that's why I'm way over. And it's kind of interesting, man, 3 different individuals and 3 different, takes on how we came to learn about power.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Right. So Mark, kind of on the same lines, and maybe might be able to share a little bit more about yourself. Gosh, probably a couple months ago, myself, Cedric, and Karen Caton, who's also a health and life coach, we did 3 separate podcasts around who we feel exemplifies us as a superhero. And obviously superheroes have usually some innate power. Mine was Superman, just kind of I think my ability to kind of see into people's hearts with my X-ray vision, like kind of what Superman had. So I'm interested if you kind of sat there for a moment or two and thought about whether it's a Marvel or a what's the other group? Not Marvel.
DC.
Yeah.
We're gonna start a Marvel versus DC war.
So if there's a superhero out there that has some similar power that you have, might there be somebody that exemplifies Mark Andrus in the world?
So I don't know, and maybe this is the engineer in me. I mean, I've always kind of felt an affinity towards Iron Man. Because he's kind of like self-made. He's like, yeah, he's like focused on doing things, his way, and kind of creating everything on his own, so to speak.
Right.
So I've always kind of had an affinity, I think, towards any of the superheroes.
Nice.
Although I do love the raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy. You gotta love a raccoon that swears.
That's right.
Although I'm kind of partial to Groot.
I'll Groot too, but a man of few words.
Right. That's what's powerful,
Yeah, exactly.
Groot, and that's it. That's all you need. So, with Iron Man and the super, the heroes, what superpower would you say you had, or a super strength?
My superpower, I think my superpower is really my intuition and really being able to say the right thing at the right time, especially with people, with my clients, with friends. Just like things will always just pop into my head, and it always seems to be that I can say the right thing at the right time for people. So,
which is kind of cool, because I think you bringing this topic of conversation to us now, I think it's just a great conversation to have. I think and as Cedric said, this is just 3 men talking about 3 different angles on kind of how we perceive power. And I think for you to kind of bring something to us that we had talked around, not so much kind of taking it head on, I think has been just a great experience for me. And I think it makes me think about based on your experiences and Cedric's experiences, how this is kind of an evolution, right? I mean, we're never going to understand always why our energy, kind of moves in different directions, but it's just that awareness of, wow, there's that energy going somewhere where I've, really trying to keep it from going there, but it seems to kind of, for some reason, my mind wanders and I end up there. But knowing that we have that ability to kind of shift it back, and I always kind of use the metaphor of getting stuck in my head and how close my heart is to that, and trying to shift that energy from one place in the body to another where there's probably more better decisions. So great conversation. I just so appreciate you, Mark, stepping up. And I know based on this experience, you're going to be back in the Man Cave.
Awesome.
You're gonna be a regular whenever you want to come on and kind of share in topics that resonate with you. And there's times where we just have kind of a free flowing conversation and we have no idea what that conversation might be. So
okay.
But for me, I just wanted to really thank you for kind of stepping up and really exposing who you are as a coach and as a man and as a father and all these things that you exemplify in our life. And I really appreciate you kind of following us and hopefully we've made some points here and there that you can say, hey, that's something I can really maybe kind of resonates with me and I can learn from. And we always tell the listeners, this may not be for you, and maybe for somebody else in your life that resonates with. And I truly appreciate, obviously, you, Mark, for stepping up and being here. Cedric, as always, my main man on the other side, doing this thing with me, and the listeners. Just really, truly appreciate those that stick with us. We don't know who all of you are. We know there's a few people that came up at the HCI Live and said, yeah, I'm kind of a mystery follower of you, and like that.
Stalkers.
There you go. But just true appreciation for everyone out there and YouTube, man, as well.
Yeah. Mark.
Yeah. I'm so happy. I really appreciate you having me on. So.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure having you. I was like, what? We did Mark? Like, hell yeah. And man, and just stepping up, dude. Because hell, I know when we first started, this is not easy, to come on and just, put your heart out there and your thoughts, because this is out there to the world, man. So grateful. Such an experience, man, to experience you and being bold enough to bring the topic and come on. Ron, you know how it is, man. You know what it do. Always grateful, man, to you and our team out there, and you guys listening in, man. Golly, every time I feel like it's coming to an end, it's just really deep inside of me. I'm hoping that just one nugget was for somebody out there. You got something that you can latch on, and even if it's not for you, something like, oh, damn, I know that somebody might need that or listen to that, man. So appreciate y'all. Keep coming in, share it at will, and man, I love y'all. I do, and I must say, from me, I have no other words. I'm just sitting here and enjoying it, man.
Awesome. Well, you may have a great evening, Mark.
All right. Thank you for having me. Anytime, I'd be happy to come back. I really appreciate you guys and everything that you put into this and you pouring out your hearts every week. So it's the least I could do. It's pour out mine.
Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.
Thank you. Namaste.
Hey.